Have you ever wondered why so many experts recommend strength training for fat loss, for longevity, especially if you do classes like body pump or CrossFit or P90X or things like that? I guess P90X has got some resistance training, some strength training in it, but where these classes or other forms of exercise where you feel like you're really working out, and then you do a bodybuilding routine, a traditional strength training routine, and you feel like, I don't feel like I'm as sweaty, I'm not as out of breath. How can it be that all these experts who look better than me and are in better shape than I am recommend these traditional bodybuilding workouts when it seems like these other forms of exercise should be superior? So that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to be talking about why strength training will help you lose fat, live longer, why if you only have 2 days a week to exercise, which you definitely have more, but if you were put in that situation, you should be focusing on strength training. If you want to lose fat, if you're on a calorie restricted diet to lose fat, you better be doing strength training. So we're going to be opening that up today, and I'm going to be even connecting it to what we're all experiencing with this concern about the COVID-19 situation. So welcome to the Legendary Life Podcast. I'm health expert Ted Ryce. In case you are new to the show, what we do here is we break down science-based information on how to lose fat, prevent disease, and live a longer, healthier, legendary life. If that's what you're into, if you're tired of the BS and the hype and the marketing, and you want to know what really works to get you in the best shape of your life, hit that subscribe button. And for those of you who have been listening for a while and you know that I got a free challenge going, we have a date for the challenge. It will be on July 3rd. Had to handle some stuff for my dad, and we're going to be kicking it off on July 3rd. So if you haven't signed up for it, and if you're interested in losing fat in 1 week, even if you haven't lost fat in the past month or the past 6 months, or even if you put on the COVID-19, there's the COVID-19, which is the disease. Then there's the COVID-15, which is the average amount of weight that I guess Americans have put on since this whole thing started. Go to legendarylifepodcast.com/challenge and sign up for the challenge there. So let's jump into it. Why resistance training? Why strength training? And like I said, I want to connect this to the current situation because I think it's a great way to understand, like, hey, this goes way beyond just, hitting the gym and having bigger muscles or whatever story, whatever narrative you have around it. And to kick it off, I want to tell you about what my dad went through recently. He was in the hospital for some leg infections. And as a result, he couldn't move. He was, in bed recovering from not only leg infections, but also it made it into his bloodstream, which can be very dangerous. I don't know how this guy survives. To be honest, I don't know how. I love him. I'm glad he's here, but I don't know how he's still alive. He's 76, has an infection in his blood. Just crazy. The infections got better after giving him antibiotics, but he was in bed for a long time and he lost a lot of muscle. I gave him a hug the other day. He was skeletal. And on top of that, he put on fat, all because he was in bed, not moving, not using his muscles. Now, he wasn't in intensive care. At least that's not what they told me. But this is what happens whenever we're bedridden. In fact, this is what happened to me. I lost 6 pounds in a matter of, I think, 3 or 4 weeks when I was in Thailand, Phuket, Thailand, which is in the south where the beaches are, beautiful place. And I got bit by a mosquito and I came down with dengue fever. I was in bed, could barely walk. I felt like I was 90 years old. It was terrible. And I lost 6 pounds. Now, some of you who, I'm trying to be nice here, But some of you who are misguided will say, would have lost those 6 pounds, stepped on the scale, been like, woohoo! I hope another mosquito bites me. I want to get that dengue fever again. I want to get it every month. I'll lose 6 pounds a month laying in bed. But the problem is I lost muscle mass. I wasn't ripped and shredded. I look skinnier and unhealthy. I've got photos from it. And people don't say nice things when I post them. They ask me if I got cancer or AIDS. Not very nice, but that's social media for you. But no, I got dengue fever and I lost 6 pounds. 6 pounds of muscle. Another thing to consider is there's something called post-intensive care syndrome. What is that? Well, you can wind up in the ICU, the intensive care unit, for a number of different reasons. And they've done studies on this, and for whatever reason you end up there, the longer you're there, you end up losing muscle. Because just like the same thing with me and my dengue fever, same thing with my dad and his leg infections, you lose muscle. And what's interesting is that there's quite a bit of research on this post-intensive care syndrome. And they found that there's a rapid loss of muscle due to being in intensive care. Now, that's probably because a number of different things, not just inactivity, but if a lot of burn victims, they end up using a lot of their energy to repair the damaged tissue, for example. But some of them come down with this syndrome and they end up back in the hospital because of it. And they lose this muscle. And what they found is that it doesn't spontaneously resolve itself. In other words, you don't get out of the hospital, go back home, get back to your normal life, and then you just bounce back and you're back to normal within a few weeks. Actually, that didn't happen to me after my dengue fever experience. I had to work like hell to put back on the muscle. And when I got in the gym, I was weak. Oh my gosh. I had been tracking my workouts, working out hard, and I was super weak when I got back in the gym. It took, 1 or 2 months. I didn't time it. I was just like, man, I'm using some light weights right now. And I worked hard to get back in shape. Can't believe that was just in 2019. It feels like years ago, but it was just last year, I guess. And what they found with these people who come down with this post-intensive care syndrome, where they lost muscle, they found that not only does it affect their bodies, right, but it affects them psychologically. In fact, and just to distinguish here, we're not talking about everyone who ends up in the ICU. We're talking about the people who really have it rough in the ICU, end up losing a bunch of muscle, and all the qualifications, all the the check marks, the guidelines to be diagnosed with this post-intensive care syndrome. But not only do they lose some muscle, but they have a 34% chance of having anxiety, 33% chance of having depression, and 19% chance of having post-traumatic stress disorder. So not because they lost the muscle, but it's like their health all over, both psychologically and physically, has gone down the tubes. And there is a great story, not so great story, depending on how you think about it, about nurse Mike Schultz, who came down with COVID-19, and he was quite fit before, and he lost 50 pounds in 6 weeks, most of it muscle. And you can see 43-year-old guy, and he looks like I did after, I lost 6 pounds, not 50. But he looks kind of like how I felt, I guess, after losing the 6 pounds off of the dengue fever. You should look it up and see. Now, the thing is, this is something that it can happen to us because of COVID-19. It can happen to us because of an accident anytime when we're laid up in bed. It can happen when you're sitting on the couch. Not post-intensive care syndrome, but rapid loss of muscle because of disuse. And why is this important? Because when you start to move again after you lose the muscle, you feel like you've gotten older, you've gotten weaker. Muscle mass is inherently protective against diabetes because Muscles that are well trained increases your insulin sensitivity. As you probably know, insulin resistance, the way I understand it, is it's separate from diabetes. I'm no diabetes expert, even though I've worked with diabetic clients, have one right now, had to have her insulin reduced because her blood sugars are so low because of the 17 pounds she's lost in a 6-week time frame. But when you train your muscles, or one of the hallmarks of diabetes is that you become insulin resistant, and it happens to different areas of your body. But one of the most important areas it happens to is in your muscles. Well, how do you make your muscles more insulin sensitive? Well, you lose fat. But one thing that can help you lose fat is training your muscles, training them hard, training them with resistance training. Resistance training also helps reduce inflammation and improves your cardiovascular health. That's why I say, if you got one thing to do, if you only have one choice for exercise, prioritize resistance training. What do you think they're doing with my dad? It resembles, because he can barely walk, what do you think they're doing? They're having him get on the, hey, just walk more. Go running, get on the bike. No, they're doing strength training exercises. Now, they resemble more physical therapy exercises, but what do you think physical therapy exercises are? Resistance training, at least when it's done properly. Now, there's some BS physical therapists out there probably doing some things that don't really have much of an effect, but that's not what we're talking about. So it's crucial. If you don't think resistance training can improve your cardiovascular health, try a set of 20 squats with resistance, not just 20 squats where, you just do 20. Like, oh yeah, that was challenging. No, challenge yourself to where the last couple are really hard. Your heart is pounding out of your chest. So let's talk about this, because this is something people mess up all the time. Why general resistance training instead of a class like body pump or, Pilates or these things where I really feel the exercises, or in body pump, you get out of breath? And the answer is this. And I mentioned body pump on purpose because they've done a study comparing a general resistance training routine to a body pump session. And what they found was a body pump session burns about 5 calories per minute for men with a BMI of about 23.5. And these people are experienced with body pump, right? They've been doing it for a while. They're not messing around like, oh, how do I do this exercise? They know what they're doing. Burns about 5 calories per minute. But if we compare this with this is a study that I'm talking about here. They compared it with strength training. Another study found, this is another study. Men with a similar BMI burn about 3 times as much. So about 15 calories per minute. So I know it doesn't feel that way because during a body pump class, you're constantly moving, you sweat more, and you're out of breath. But it just doesn't compensate. It just doesn't make up for the difference in intensity. In other words, when you do resistance training right, which we're going to talk about, we're going to get to that. I'm going to share with you 7 tips to do it right. And I won't, I'll go through it quickly. I'm not going to spend too long. But if you do it right, you're really working hard. So although that's one of the big problems that we're going to even talk about, why what you feel ain't always real. At least what you think you're burning a lot of energy and you're really not. I fell prey for that, by the way. Actually, for those of you who like Zumba classes, it gets much closer to heavy strength training in terms of energy expenditure. In other words, of how many calories you burn, but it doesn't come close. And the thing is, something like Zumba won't help you build muscle, at least not in the long term, while resistance training, strength training done repeatedly, the way I'm going to talk to you about it right now, if you follow what I teach you in this podcast today, you're going to build muscle and burn energy. So let's get into it. The 7 keys to maximizing results with resistance training. The number 1 key here is that you've got to perform your exercises properly. This is key because I see people, now I do virtual coaching, right? And so I'm not always, or I should say, my clients don't always take advantage of the fact that they can record themselves doing exercises and send it to me. And of course, I'll review it. And sometimes I'm like, show me what you're doing. And then they show me, I'm like, you've got to slow down. You've got to work on your technique. It's not that you're doing the exercise wrong, but it's just sloppy. And so what do I want to tell you now? Work on that mind-muscle connection. Make sure you're going slow. Take a couple seconds down. Take a couple seconds up. Make sure you're having control. If you've ever seen a nice tennis, let's say tennis backhand or forehand or whatever, from a pro versus, like a kid like me, when I first started taking tennis lessons back in the day, I really wanted to be skateboarding, but my parents forced me to go to tennis after school. I wore jeans and like a rock and roll t-shirt, heavy metal t-shirt. But if you notice the difference in the technique, you've seen that, whether it's a golf swing or tennis swing or, maybe running even. When you see the good technique, there's just something about it that looks smooth and controlled. And the same is true for resistance training exercises. Be smooth, be controlled. Go slow at first. Make sure the right things are working. Make sure you work on connecting your mind to your muscle. This has been shown to help get you better results. Now, the second thing is work until muscular exhaustion. This happens all the time. Oh, how many sets? I do 5 sets of 10 reps with dips or push-ups or whatever. Okay, well, how many can you do if I ask you to do as many as you can for one set? Well, I can probably do 17 or maybe even 20. Then why the hell are you doing 5 sets of 10? Doesn't make any sense. And the same thing goes with any exercise. I don't care. People tell me all the time, I'm doing 5 sets. All you need to ask yourself, did I work to muscular exhaustion? Yes or no? Did I push it till my muscles were burning and I started to get to that point where it felt super heavy? I had to grind out a couple and I almost got to that point where my form got a little iffy. If you didn't do that, then you're not doing it. Then you're not maximizing your results. I'm not going to say that you always have to do that. In fact, a client of mine asked me, he's like, well, I'm getting good results. Do I really need to push with the legs? Because I'm a little bit concerned. He had a concern about, a part of his body. And I'm like, yeah, no, if you're getting great results, if you're making great progress, there's no need. But if you're not, you probably need to work a bit harder. And harder being defined as not how hard your heart is beating, not how heavy you're breathing, but do you feel burning in the muscle? Yes or no? Because if, someone asked me this, it's like, yeah, but when I do my workout really fast and rest less, we'll talk about that in a second, I feel it more. And it's like, no. You feel out of breath more. That's different. You want to feel out of breath, go to cardio. But if you want to maximize your results with resistance training, work to muscular exhaustion. It doesn't matter. Oh, I'm out of breath. Doesn't matter if you're out of breath or not out of breath. Did you work the muscles that you're working with with whatever exercise? Did you work them to muscular exhaustion? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, and you're not happy with the results you have, time to step your game up. Number 3, add more reps and weight over time. When I used to do personal training, I had clients, because I work with the affluent. And they would always ask me, like, I had a client who did Tracy Anderson's workout. Tracy Anderson is against using more than 3-pound weights. So it makes women bulky. Actually, there is something there. And if I don't go too long with this, I'll try to unpack it at the end. Because there are times where it's like, if you want a skinnier look, I also ask my clients, do you want a kind of a leaner, thinner look, or do you want a more muscular look? And for the ones that want a more muscular look, I emphasize more resistance training. For those that want kind of a leaner, skinnier look, I'll do more cardio. That's basically it. So what Tracy Anderson does with the 3-pound weights is, you get a little bit in there, but a little bit of stimulation for the muscle in there, but it's basically like doing cardio. So the thing is, so going back to adding more reps and weight over time, what I have my clients shoot for is always try to do more than what you did last time. And always add reps before you add weight. In fact, a good rule of thumb, do the same weight for 2 to 3 workouts and just try to add reps and then increase the weight. Why? Because your joints are going to thank you for it. That's why. But no matter who you are, if you're a man or a woman and you want your body to change, if you've got a lot of fat and you want to get it off, increasing your muscle mass is going to help a lot. And the way to do that is to, number one, all the things that we already talked about. Use good technique, work your muscles to that exhaustion point, and add more reps and weight over time. Those are the keys, the biggest keys, the top 3. But if I had to give you a few more, number 4 would be make sure you rest 90 seconds to 2 minutes in between sets. Do not shorten your rest time to 30 seconds or 1 minute. Now, you can superset exercises. You can alternate between 2 different exercises, say an upper and lower body or a push and a pull exercise, and rest 30 to 60 seconds in between those. But if you're doing straight sets, meaning I'm doing one exercise at a time, you better be taking 90 to 120 seconds in between sets for most of your sets. Maybe there are times like certain special techniques, you rest less, or maybe times where you're just doing something different, resting less. But in general, you want to rest. Why? Because it's not about how hard the workout is. It's about how well the muscle got stimulated. It's about were you able to add reps and weight over time or no? That's what it's about. How do you, I hate to use this example all the time, but it's like, how do you know if you're doing better with your career or your business? It's not always about the money, but just that's the metric we use. It's like, how's your business doing? Well, it's making more money. Because if it's just harder, the work is harder, but you're not making more money, there's a problem. Why are you working harder but not getting anything for it? Obviously, there's, I guess, it's more nuanced than that, but just as an example. So rest in between your exercises, and you want to cut down on the rest, superset exercises or do trisets, right? 5 is focus on exercises that use big muscle groups first. Now, you don't have to do this, but it's something that I think, it's just something that I've seen. I've watched so many people come into the gym, both men and women alike. They come into the gym, they walk right up to the dumbbell rack, and they start doing curls, or they start doing lateral raises for their shoulders. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, there's times like if you're in super great shape and you have a lagging body part, like let's say you want to prioritize your arms or shoulders in this case, okay, I get it. But if you're trying to change your body, you're trying to get into the best shape possible. In fact, I was over staying at the hotel right next door from my dad's complex. Dude went in there, picked up the weights, started doing bicep curls. Then he told me he had a shoulder injury. I was just like, man, this guy does not look good. At least he's doing something. But I mean, if you're going to do something, why not do it right? I just don't understand, I mean, I get it. It's like, hey, man, I'm in here, okay? Stop busting my balls. It's like, yeah, but how many years have you been just getting in there? When are you going to take this a bit more seriously? Then he told me about his shoulder injury. By the way, I do not offer advice, unlike everyone else, right? Like, oh, man, well, what you got to do is, no, Unless you pay me or listen to my podcast, I ain't giving you advice. I'll just say, oh, I'm so sorry. It's easily fixed, by the way. I'll just think that, but I don't give advice, in case you wanted to know. This episode is sponsored by Organifi. Do you want to know a secret that all my coaching clients follow? It's really simple, but powerful. Add vegetables into each meal. But let's be honest, most of us, including myself, don't eat the recommended servings of vegetables and fruits each day. So for those of us who are on the go or have trouble eating healthy, having a greens powder makes it easy to get your greens in every single day, no matter how busy you are. And that's why I use and recommend Organifi green juice. a superfood powder that you just add water to so that you can get your greens in even when you're on the go. The best thing about Organifi green juice is that it actually tastes great. But don't believe me, try it for yourself. And use the code TED20, that's capital TED, the number 20, at www.organifi.com. That's Organifi.com to receive 20% off your first order. But hurry, this is a limited time discount for Legendary Life listeners. Now, back to the episode. And then 6, focus on upper, lower, or total body splits. What does that mean? If you are still doing chest on Mondays, back on Tuesdays, legs on Wednesdays, why are you doing that? The 1980s called, they want their workouts back. Arnold Schwarzenegger, circa Conan the Barbarian, called, he wants his workout back. And he was taking steroids and you're not. That's why you don't look the same on that body part split. Look, let's bring you up to speed. Welcome to 2020. Personally, I do total body splits. I don't see a reason to do upper lower unless I've done upper body exercises and then done some coaching calls and then did my lower body exercises after. You could do that. You can split them up on other days, but in general, total body splits are going to give you bang for your buck. And I'll tell you this is another one where people mess up. Train each muscle group at least 2 times per week. So that would be if you did upper lower splits, you would do Monday upper body or lower body. So Monday upper body, Tuesday lower body, Wednesday rest or cardio or whatever, Thursday upper body, Friday lower body, then rest or cardio on a Saturday and Sunday. That's how an upper lower body split would work. Total body splits, real easy. You just do total body and you do it, let's say 2 to 3. I'll share a little secret here. I have clients who want to train, who can train 4 times a week. I'll have them do total body splits, total body on Monday, total body on Tuesday, rest on Wednesday, total body on Thursday, total body on Friday, rest on Saturday, rest on Sunday. Oh, but Ted, you can't work the same muscle group, never work the same muscle group 2 days in a row. Yeah, I used to believe that too 10 years ago, but it's 2020. I get great results with doing that. So if you've never tried that out, give it a try. So work your muscles 2 times a week. There is a push-pull legs, but that's 6 days a week. I don't really care for that routine. I know people who get good results with it. So maybe you're one of those people. If you like it, cool. But or if that appeals to you, great. Don't personally like it. I think if you're a hardcore, maybe strength athlete, you don't perform, you don't actually do any sport, but you're like, yeah, I'm in the gym. You're all into it. I used to do push-pull legs, but I've kind of gotten away from it because I'm not in that mindset where I just love being in the gym and training hard all the time. Everybody thinks that. So funny. It's like, Ted, I would love to look like you, but I'm not willing to restrict my life like you have to. I'm like, how do I restrict my life? I work out with weights 30 minutes 4 times a week, and I eat ice cream cake. How the hell am I restricting myself? So funny what people think. So let's go over those one more time because I know I rambled a bit. Number 1, your form must be on point. Form that mind-muscle connection. Go slow and get that technique down for every single exercise you do. Treat it as learning how to swing a racket or a baseball bat or a golf club. Number 2, work to muscular exhaustion. Your heart rate doesn't matter. How fast you're breathing, how hard you're breathing doesn't matter. Or if you're doing leg exercises, are your leg muscles fatigued? If you're doing upper body exercises, are your upper body muscles that you're working fatigued? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, then time to try what I'm suggesting here. Number 3, add more reps and weight over time. Very common mistake. People are like, well, I don't know if I think I added more. In my coaching program, I have people track their progress. And I don't always expect them to add more reps and weight every workout, although that's what I tell them to shoot for. But over time, it should trend up in that direction. Number 4 is rest 90 seconds to 120 seconds in between sets, because that's how long your muscles need to recover. Less rest makes it seem like it's harder, but it's less productive. Number 5, focus on exercises that use big muscle groups first. Do your squats and presses and pulls before, your deltoids and your, isolation exercises. 6, focus on either an upper lower split or total body split. If you want, you can do the push pull legs. I just think, put you in the gym an extra day. And I really don't I really think the quality of work goes down when you just single out a body part like that. So I'm not a fan of it. 7, train each muscle group for at least 2 times a week. Right there, you're going to see massive improvements if you just do that. Now let's talk about some common mistakes. Number 1, and some of this is going to be like just the opposite of what we went over, a couple of them. Number 1, sloppy technique. Get your technique down. I'm saying it twice because I want to hit you on the head with repetition in case you're one of those sloppy technique people. 2, changing exercises and routines too frequently because you think you need to confuse your muscles because you sat there stuffing popcorn in your face watching too many P90X commercials. There's no such thing as muscle confusion. You're the one that's confused, okay? What you need to do is there's no need to change your program. I used the same program when I got into great shape during quarantine, used the same program over and over and over for 3 months. You following the guidelines that I shared with you here. 3, resting too little in between sets because you think I'm so smart. It's so much harder when you rest less. No, you're not smart. You're doing it wrong. Suboptimal. Number 4, again, there are special techniques like myo reps, like certain blood flow restriction protocols that require less rest. And of course, if you want a superset or triset or, that's fine too. But what we're talking about is resting too little in between sets of the same exercise. That's a hard one for people because people hate resting. They hate sitting there with themselves for 90 seconds or 2 minutes. It's torturous. May I suggest Talkspace for a therapist, if that happens to be your case. Number 4, adding in special techniques before mastering the basics. Why the hell are you doing myo reps or cluster sets or drop sets or, any of those other things before you know that you can work a muscle to exhaustion and consistently go up in reps and weight every week? Why would you add special techniques that confuse everything? Prove to yourself that you can do it. Now I exclusively use special techniques, but I'm not under the impression that the special techniques violate the rules that I already talked about. You need that progressive overload. You need that working to close to failure without actually hitting failure. 5, using how you feel to judge your workouts' effectiveness instead of data. I track my own workouts in my app. I have all my clients do that. And if they're happy with results, I don't bust their chops about it. But if they're not happy, I'm like, are you tracking your workouts? No, then start tracking them. Start shooting for more. 6 is not eating enough protein. You got to be eating somewhere in around the 0.7, 0.8 grams per pound to maximize your results from resistance training exercise. It's mostly, you can't sit on your butt and eat protein and gain muscle. Actually, you might, but it's not going to last for long. But eating protein in conjunction with doing a resistance training program, that's going to change the game for you. And here's the 7th mistake, thinking supplements are what you're missing. Now, I'll tell you a personal story here. In my 20s, I was like, bro, I know so much about training. And I did, in a way. I mean, compared to what was the knowledge that was available, or relative to the knowledge that was available at the time. But I knew a lot, and I thought, man, I got this training thing down. I'm not getting results because I must have maxed out my genetic potential. And I looked good. I was lean. Most of you have seen my masterclass and my photo of me when I was a douchey, overconfident 24 or 23-year-old personal trainer with that like look that I had life all figured out on my face. I was in good shape, but the truth is I didn't know why I was getting the results I got. I just got them. And I thought it was all this special strength training stuff that I don't even mess around with anymore. And I thought, to take my results to the next levels, because it's obvious that I'm so smart, I max out my genetic potential here. That's why my workouts aren't continuing to produce results. I need to invest in some supplements. Gosh, was I dumb. But that's okay, because that got me to where I am now. But I'm telling you, if you think supplements are what you're missing, you don't need any of them, including protein powder. No need for protein powder. I mean, it can help. I'm taking protein powder now, but I wasn't in Colombia where I hit my peak physique in ever. And you don't need any supplements. Now, I'm not saying they can't help. Creatine, protein. If you're doing intense cardiovascular training, beta-alanine and citrulline malate can all help. Maybe even beta-alanine with longer sets. If you do, actually, that's a good idea. I should get some beta-alanine because some of the things that I'm doing are a bit longer, a bit more dealing with the glycolytic anaerobic metabolism. I'll tell you this. I've been using supplements for 30 years. I've been in this business for 21 years. I've been reading science on it for the past, 10 or 15. I'd like to say 20, but most of that, what I read was marketing, not science. But I'll tell you, I've never been more unimpressed with supplements and more impressed with knowing about nutrition, knowing about training, and performing it consistently. That's where the big results are. And then supplements can, add a few percent here and there. Just wanted to say that because I know it's something people love, supplements. So just to recap, what did we talk about today? We talked about why resistance training is so important because and I didn't mention this at the beginning, but you're going to lose muscle mass as you age. It's called sarcopenia. You're going to lose muscle mass if you ever wind up sick from COVID or wind up sick from dengue fever like I did, or wind up sick like my dad with leg infections and a blood bacterial infection where you were in bed, couldn't move. You're going to lose muscle mass if you get traumatically injured, like in a car accident or fall and break something. If you've ever had a broken bone and you had to have a cast over it and then the cast came off, you've seen how fast your muscles can atrophy. So in this muscle mass, this is protecting you against diabetes. It makes you more insulin sensitive. Having trained muscles from resistance training, strength training, reduces inflammation and improves your cardiovascular health with no cardio required. And why should you do general resistance training classes, routines instead of body pump, CrossFit, whatever? Because it's about the things that we shared here. It's not just about burning energy, right? Most people, what they do is they try to turn resistance training into a hard ass, like epic marathon type of thing, but you're not building muscle with that. Okay. You're not building muscle with that. You're resting too little. So the 7 keys are: form that mind muscle connection, work a muscle to muscular exhaustion without hitting failure, by the way. Number 3, add more reps and weight over time. Number 4, rest 90 to 120 seconds in between sets of the same exercise. Number 5, focus on exercises that use big muscle groups first. 6, focus on either doing upper lower body split or a total body split, and make sure you hit, and number 7 is make sure you hit each muscle group 2 times per week. The common mistakes are sloppy technique. You will never get great results if your technique is sloppy. Slow it down, take a couple seconds up, take a couple seconds down, focus on feeling that connection between the movement and the muscles that are causing it. Number 2, stop changing your exercise and routines too frequently. Focus on the principles that I outlined before. 3, stop resting so little in between sets unless you're doing a special technique that is proven to work, by the way. and that calls for it. Number 4, stop messing around with special techniques in general until you prove to yourself you know how to work that muscle hard, then come back and work it again and end up doing more reps than what you did last time and eventually adding weight. Number 5, stop using how you feel to judge your workouts. Instead, use data. You can write it down in a notebook. You can thumb it in on a note app. That's what I did for a little while before I got the app that I use now with my clients, and I was like, oh, I should probably be using this too. Number 6, not eating enough protein. Hit 0.7 to 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, and this is a recommendation you can follow if you're normal weight, if you're overweight, if you're obese, you can still follow this. And 7, thinking supplements are what you're missing. No, you're not. You gotta work on what I outlined today, and you will get better results. And I want to leave you with this. Don't believe me. I know how it is out there. Everyone says, probably a lot of people told you something different than what I said today. I don't care whether I don't care whether you believe me or not. I hope you do, because it'll be better for you, but it's not going to change my life. All right. My clients pay me for this information. They get results. You've seen my before and afters. I know what I'm doing. I'm doing this for you. So you don't have to believe me, but at least test what I'm telling you. Try to prove me wrong. Of course, if you don't prove me wrong, it means you did something wrong, but at least, I'm sorry, I'm coming across a little cocky today, but I'm just trying to tell you, look, this stuff works. I've been down so many of these other roads. This stuff works. I don't have a diet book out. I work with people. So give it a try. Don't believe me, but at least believe me enough to challenge anything that you might hear that you might think is wrong. Give it a try and prove it to yourself that it doesn't work. Okay? Don't be gullible and just believe me, because I know it's so hard to tell, okay, who's telling the truth, who isn't. I know. I've been there for a long time and I was doing this professionally, but try what I'm telling you here. Put it into action. And if you want to experience a week of me coaching you, mostly on nutrition, but we do hook you up with exercise and explain the difference between weight loss and fat loss, go to legendarylifepodcast.com/challenge. I'll say that one more time, because if you've been listening to this for a while, I mess up the URLs all the time. legendarylifepodcast.com/challenge to sign up for the new challenge that will launch on July 3rd. All right. So go forth, apply these techniques, and get more lean and get more jacked. Hope you enjoyed this. Have a great week. And I'll speak to you on Friday, where I'm going to be talking about the culture shock I'm experiencing being back in America after being out of the country for the past 2 years, and the lessons that I think are important for you to take away from it. So looking forward to sharing that with you. Talk to you soon.